Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a Q&A. I asked people on Instagram if they had any questions for me regarding my life, art, business, anything, nothing was off limits. And so today I'm going to answer those questions right here for you. I hope to do these sorts of Q&A videos semi-regularly, so if you have any questions or think of any questions during this video, write them in the comments down below and I will answer them in the next Q&A. Question number 1. How did you find your art style? This is a question that I see gets asked a lot, not just to me, but to other artists. And it's an interesting question, and most people that I see, most artists, answer it the same way, which is, I don't really have style, or I'm still developing my style. Don't put so much emphasis on style because style isn't the most important thing. And I see where they're all coming from. Honestly, style is sort of like your fingerprint. It's sort of your own way of doing things because there's not really a whole lot of new things to be done. It's just the way in which you do it. And because you're a unique individual, your perspective on things is going to be unique to you. So for example, you could draw a cat, and that cat is going to look different when you draw it versus how all other artists draw it. And that's sort of your style. That's going to come out just in the way in which you hold the pen or the pencil, the colors that you choose, which are colors that you kind of like more than other colors. Certain things that you're going to emphasize. You're going to either emphasize cute eyes or a long tail, and that could be based on the cat that you had growing up, or what you like most about cats is their long whiskers or tiny little paws, and so however you perceive the world is going to sort of influence how you draw the world or how you interpret the world through your art. And that's constantly evolving. Like how you perceive and view the world and what you value and what influences you is going to evolve and change and grow. So that's why style changes and grows. So my art style is influenced by a lot of different things. One practice that I did to help me sort of discover my style, which is I'm constantly discovering as I'm drawing what I like, what I don't like, what makes me happy, what inspires me, what I find magical. Those are the things that kind of stick and I repeat them. And that then sort of gets compiled into a collection of work that I guess could be then perceived as style. One thing that I did to help me sort of hone that style was I made a Pinterest board that had all sorts of things from my child that influenced me. I called it my childhood influence map. So video games, TV, movies, board games, books, anything like cover art in books, anything that I really enjoyed as a child that I was just naturally drawn to, not thinking about art, not thinking about career, not thinking about money, but things that I just naturally liked throughout my youth. I compiled all of those images into a Pinterest board, and then I sort of just zoomed out and looked at all of them and to see what they all had in common. And a lot of them had sort of spooky, magical, fantasy. There was a lot of consistent color themes like purples and blues and pinks, and just a lot of similar subject matter, a lot of natural world elements, leaves and plants and trees, a lot of magical things like potions and the way the light, glowing mystical light, and a lot of similar concepts like that. So I was kind of naturally drawing those things in general, but to sort of look back and see that that was something that influenced me as a child and in my youth really kind of solidified for me that those are the kinds of things that inspired me creatively, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to continue to create and make to inspire other people. So that definitely influenced my style. And then just other artists, things that I like in other artists, certain things that they do proportionately or color-wise or, I don't know, stylistically. Those are the sort of things that kind of just stick. And so my style is really just a hodgepodge patchwork of a bunch of other styles that have influenced me, and it continues to get added to and subtracted from as I grow and evolve. And so style is sort of a background process that's always running as I continue to create. Okay, question number 2, which is similar. How do you choose what to draw? again, it's similar things. It's what am I interested in? What am I drawn towards? What do I find interesting or inspiring or beautiful or nice to look at? Those are the sort of things that I want to make, simply because they make me happy. So things like the cool characters or cool clothing styles or interesting things that I want to see in my head, mystical or magical lands or worlds, a lot of it's just generated in my head by interesting ideas that I have. I don't really draw a lot of things that I don't like. So I don't draw a lot of cities or buildings or, like man-made things. So, yeah, I choose what I like and what makes me happy, basically. Yeah. Question number 3, also related to my style, and that is, why the tribal motifs? So if you've seen my work, which obviously probably have if you're here, a lot of my work has tribal elements. There's feathers, there's tattoos, there's piercings, there's sort of fantasy tribal clothing, straps and hoods, and yeah, a general tribal motif that runs through a lot of my work. Why is that? A lot of that, again, comes from the artistic influences on my childhood and throughout my life. The things that I'm drawn to and that I really like have those elements to them. But I think there's something about the tribal world that really resonates with who I am and sort of what I value, and that's this sort of wild, free-spirited, connected to nature, sort of like philosophy. Like, we live in the woods, we live in the wilderness, and we're free-spirited, and we're exploring, and we're adventurous, and we're curious, and we're very visually and artistically expressive. So I feel like I grew up in a world where I needed to be very rigid and controlled and confined. The school that I went to had a very strict dress code, and I wasn't able to really express who I was outwardly, creatively, aesthetically. And so something about the tribal world, sticking feathers in your hair, having these tribal tattoos and body paint and fun piercings and clothing that was sort of put together from materials around you and just made to be not just functional but also aesthetic. And yeah, so there's really something about that tribal idea that speaks to this inner part of me that wants to just sort of break free and be fun and creative and wild and one with nature. And so that's sort of the world that I want to live in, or feel like my inner self is living in. And I'm starting to break into those things in my real world and wear the clothing I make and paint my nails purple and live and create an aesthetic that I enjoy. But I can't fully totally embrace it in the way that I do inside, so that my art is a place for me to sort of create this idealized fantasy world that I wish I lived in and I wish we all lived in. And in my free time as a kid, I would just run out into the woods and I would just build forts out of sticks and climb trees and paint mud on my face and things like that. And I really loved living that way. I was really inspired by, Swiss Family Robinson and Robinson Crusoe and Island of the Blue Dolphins, The Hatchet, My Side of the Mountain. A lot of these books about people surviving in the wilderness, books and stories about people living in the wilderness and surviving off the wilderness. I was always really drawn and fascinated to those types of stories. The Lost Boys in Peter Pan were a huge inspiration as well for me. I just love that vibe of people banding together and living out in the wild. There's a freedom and creativity and energy about living in the woods without the rules of society that was always really appealing to me. I also grew up in upstate New York, where there's a lot of Native American influence. All the towns and lakes are named Native American names, and as a kid, when we played Cowboys and Indians, I was always the Indian, which I know is not politically correct, but it was a different time back then. And I always did my school reports on the Native Americans and their way of life. And I just loved that tribal world that felt so lost to our modern industrialization. And I think I always sort of grieved that. So I desire to sort of hold on to and maybe even create or continue to create a world where mysticism and nature and community and freedom are valued and celebrated in the world. rather than what a lot of sci-fi and future-oriented creativity and stories promote is a very hyper-tech, hyper-city, crowded, and really honestly demoralizing, void of nature future, which I do not like. So there's something really powerful and beautiful about the sort of tribal Native American aesthetic and philosophy and lifestyle that I've always resonated with, and I really want to carry through my work. And I think it looks really cool, and I really like it. So hopefully you do too, because it's going to stick around for a while. So question number 4 is, how do you manage your time as a freelance illustrator? How is your work-life balanced? Okay, good question. I'm not great at this. Speaking of like tribal things and being a free spirit, I do not like rigid structures. So managing my time, a lot of it has to do with the deadline of my work. So once I have the deadline set, I'm able to then sort of break things down based on how much time I need to get the thing done. And I'm pretty good at managing that. I have tried using more rigid systems of waking up at a very certain time, working from this time to this time, having a lunch break at this time to this time, going to work again, breaking for dinner in the end of the day. And there is benefit to that, and there are times when I feel more productive using a system like that, but it's very hard for me to self-implement those disciplines of a rigid structure. So it's hard when I'm the only person in my business to do all aspects of the business. But I am a very feelings motivated person in all of my life. So I want to work on things when I feel like working on it. So, and that feeling could come and go. So what it helps me to do is have multiple projects at once and then line up when all my deadlines are. Sometimes I put it on a calendar, sometimes I just have it on my phone. Sometimes I just hold it all in my head. I don't have like a clear system, but if I know when the deadline is and I have multiple projects at once, I'm able to wake up that day and say, what's a priority today? What needs to get done? And out of all of the projects that need to get done or I need to work on a little bit today, which one do I feel the most excited about right now? Because that work is going to be better if I'm emotionally invested into it and connected to it. So if I allow myself those options, I'm able to just sort of chip away at them as needed, and I'm pretty good at balancing that. I'm getting better as I go. I wasn't always that good. But when I have a lot of work or a lot of deadlines coming up, it helps me to put it visually on a calendar so I know when to do what I need to do. I also tend to be kind of ADD, or I can get really sucked into my work, so it helps me to have end times. So I try to stop working if I can at like 6 p.m. so I can break, do dinner, unwind, and relax in the evening. Otherwise, if I keep working super late, my brain will get stuck in creative mode and that makes it hard to fall asleep, and it just kind of like ends up ruining things. Finding balance is not easy. I try though to every day not eat while I work, so try to have meals separate from work, because I can end up doing that, eating while I'm trying to like do other tasks, and that's not helpful. So breaking time for meals, breaking time in the evening to unwind and relax, and then having multiple projects that I can work at during the day allows me to find an okay balance. I'm still working at it. I'm not perfect. I will let you know as things progress. But right now, time management is not my greatest strength. But I'm learning and I'm doing my best. Hopefully that answered that question. I feel like I just talked around it kind of. Question number 5. How do you get clients and how do you make them hire you instead of somebody else? Oh, wow. Okay, first of all, I don't make anybody hire me. I wouldn't even know how to do that if I could. Honestly, most of my clients find me, which I'm incredibly grateful for. I don't really find clients. Most of my clients find me. A lot of them find me through Instagram, social media where I'm putting my work out. Some people find me through my website, my portfolio, which I need to update, by the way. And generally the people that find me through that social media want to hire me because they saw my work and they like my work. And that's what the style they want. So they want to hire me because of that. I also use Upwork, so that's a place where I can apply to specific jobs that are put out and then send them my work or portfolio, and in that case I just show them what I have in my offer, and they get to decide if they want to hire me or somebody else. I do not try to force anybody to hire me. For the sake of like the working relationship, it's better if both parties want to be there. And because I'm a freelancer, even though I'm not like super famous, I still try to choose the work that I want to do, because I know it's going to be a more enjoyable process for me and for the client. And the work is going to be better if I'm connected to it and invested in it. So if I can, I like to choose work that I want to do and I'm excited about doing and that I really feel like fits with my style and aesthetic. Sometimes I just need work, and so I have to accept jobs that are that fall under that I might not be totally excited about, but that I can do it and it'll make some money. So I try not to like really overly sell myself. I try also not to lie about my abilities or my strengths. I find that's, if I set those expectations, like I can do this, or you want to hire me because of this and this and this, one, that feels inauthentic to who I am. I'm not this like self-promoting, or I don't think I'm just top shit. Like I think I'm decent, but I'm not going to try to oversell myself to get a job and then feel like I underdeliver. So I only promise what I'm able to do. And I want to be authentic about like, these are my skills, and like I'm not sure I can actually do that. I will try. If you want to give me the chance, I will try to do that. This I'm confident that I can do. This I know that I can do. And like sometimes I've got offers where I'm like, I don't know if honestly I'm the best person for this job. I think actually you might find somebody who's better suited for it. And I think that level of honesty with myself and my own abilities and with a client really creates the type of client freelancer relationship that I really enjoy doing. So again, most of my clients find me, which helps weed a lot of that out, and then the rest of the work I only apply to things that I really feel like I want to do or I'm qualified to do. So, and the last question for this video, question number 6, how do you sustain motivation to create, and what are things that help you keep at it? Okay, motivation to create. That's interesting. I don't know if I've ever thought about it that way, because for me, I have always been motivated to create. Always. My entire life. I've always wanted to make things. Always. Like that creative energy in so many ways for me is my life force. To me, that's what it feels like to be alive. That creative energy for me is the reason why I exist in many ways. Like that's why I'm here, is to make things. So, and that's not just illustration, that's anything from like knitting this sweater to baking to building with Legos as a child. Like I love working with my hands. I love the creative process. I love making something out of nothing. Finding motivation to create has never really been a challenge, except when I'm really depressed. But even then, like there's always this desire to make something and to create or be involved in that creative process. So I don't struggle with finding the motivation to create. I struggle with harnessing that motivation into a specific task or a specific discipline or field of creativity. My problem is I feel almost like I'm too creative, that I want to do everything creative all the time and have a really hard time narrowing that focus. So that's sort of my challenge is plugging away at investing into one specific outlet for the sake of growing that, because I will just jump into all different things all the time and never really get better, you know? So that's where the challenge is for me, is the motivation to continue doing the same thing. And some of the things that help me to do that is honestly to like have external sources of motivation, because if it's just up to me, I'll sort of drop the ball. But like Instagram is a big one. If I make a commitment to post a certain, like things like Inktober that we just did, like that, it's like I promise to illustrate every day, and I have people out there who are wanting to see it and are expecting it, so I'm going to do this for me but also for them and to keep my word. Same with this YouTube channel. That's another thing, like I want to do more in this area, so I'm committing to doing it, and then I have to like sort of fulfill that commitment. Daily practices, challenges, things like draw this in your style, those challenges really help me when I don't know what to create or where to put my creative energy. Having those little sort of bite-sized challenges helps sort of channel that into a specific outlet. And then also just constantly having multiple creative outlets that aren't work really helps keep that energy flowing. So having like a side knitting project that I'm working on for myself, baking a pie, cooking, gardening, all those sort of like creative life tasks really help to just sort of keep the flow of creativity. And I want to recommend a book that has helped me a lot in understanding creativity and the creative process and how it works, and sort of shift my whole perspective on what it means to be a creative and live creatively, is this book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic. I cannot recommend this book enough. It's amazing. I got a lot out of it, and I know a lot of other creative people have. This really helped shift for me how I shift and solidify, I guess, a lot of different thoughts and feelings that I have about how creativity works, or a different way to think about how creativity could work for you, and to make it less of a burden and more of a way of life, and removing a lot of the fear and anxiety in being a creative person, and sort of stepping into this mystical, magical process of aligning yourself with these creative forces of the universe to live a life that's like joyful and meaningful and magic. So Big Magic, I highly recommend it. Check it out if you can. Okay, that's it for this video. If you have any other questions for me that you want me to answer in the next Q&A video, please leave them down below in the comment section and I will answer them in the next video. Also, go follow me over on Instagram because I also ask for questions there. Thank you to the people who asked these questions for this video. I really appreciate them. They were very engaging and thoughtful, and I appreciate your input and support. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more from me, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to follow me elsewhere and social media and the internet universe, all the links are down below for where you can find me. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you next time. But until then, stay whimsical and stay magical. Bye!